It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We are live. That's right, live again, live from here on out in more instances than not. At the Alico building, it is the Pete Sousa Show, presented as always. I drove by it this morning, stopped in, had some of that fresh coffee, a kolache. You know I'm talking about Slovaceks of West, right? I was coming back from Dallas, and that's an appointment, basically, to stop in Slovaceks, to get some food, to feel the vibes, and to say what's up to my friends out there in West Texas. So we are presented by Slovaceks. We are presented by Crawford Austin Real Estate. You see some of the other sponsors over my shoulder. And let me tell you, it's great to have football back. We are now 100% football back. Not week 0, not preseason. Football is back to the point where yesterday evening, second half, we were getting towards the end of the first half of the Rams and Lions game, which I guess was a fantastic finish, where I was like, you know what? Enough football for me for this weekend. And I turned on the Perfect Couple on Netflix, which, by the way, I was like, it's about time. We were due for one of these shows. It's basically like a whodunit, and very, very good. So I'm into that. 3 episodes in, fell asleep during episode 3 last night. We were wide awake, though, for Tom Brady's debut yesterday, weren't we? All of us. We were so excited. Fox did, let's just say, a very good job of promoting it. I think everybody was well aware of the beginning of Tom Brady's career as a football analyst, to the tune of $375 million. One of the things watching games yesterday where it became very clear to me about the size of the shift was watching the Steelers and the Falcons and seeing Greg Olsen alongside Joe Davis and seeing how fantastic they were and thinking to myself, wow, there's probably, and we're going to talk a little bit about the pressure that lives online, or the commentary, I should say, that lives online for anybody of Tom Brady's ilk. But Greg Olsen is really, really good. And watching him at 1:00 yesterday, I thought to myself, wow, like, I wonder if Tom Brady or he have talked about it. And at the end of the day, it's business, right? And I think they probably do a pretty good job of just moving on. But these guys have egos just like the rest of us. And being a successful professional athlete, probably bigger than most, if not all of us. And Greg Olsen is very good. I'll leave it at that. Tom Brady made his debut at 3:25 Central Time for the Cowboys and Browns game. And I know that we have to review this game because it was game 1. But it's a fool's errand to really, as I get a sip of the old water there, wet the palate. It's a fool's errand to really give Tom Brady a grade after this first week. He did a good job. I think that a couple things jumped out at me. One, his voice is different. He doesn't have like Sean McDonough pipes, and he doesn't have Troy Aikman pipes, really. And remember now, it's a visual medium watching television, but you're hearing these guys for most of the game. That was the one thing that I was like, Tom Brady's voice. It's nice to know. You know, Shaq can't shoot free throws either. You know, they don't have absolutely everything. But I do believe, in my experience as a broadcaster myself, his voice will lower a couple octaves as he gets more comfortable. And that's an indication that he'll be just looser. And I think that one thing that he missed on yesterday, if it was anything, and I can't even say it was a miss, it's just something that will come with the repetition, is being loose and having fun. You know, you gotta remember, if you're Tom Brady or if you're anybody, and even myself, when I'm calling games, this is a sport. People are having fun. We're hanging out. Like, I lose sight of that sometimes. And I think that maybe you don't want to ever force any humor, but there wasn't as much, you want to have fun. Even Troy Aikman's a pretty upright individual, right? But at the same time, he has fun with Joe Buck, but it wasn't always like that. I mean, your first day on your new job, even if you get to know the people you're working with before you start, you're just not there yet as far as, hey, man, I'm just going to let this rip. And I think that that's something we will see more and more. I think that what's funny is like there's people that live online, and certainly I can be that person where you just doom scroll or you dive into your phone and you're getting all this commentary from all these people whose comments really don't affect anyone, except for the fact that maybe sometimes we get like a herd mentality or a pack that becomes overwhelming online, and sometimes they unfortunately can incite change, which is like really, or ignite change, which is really kind of weird that we live in that kind of world. But Tom Brady doesn't live in that kind of world, and neither do the executives at Fox. So, like, all that chatter online doesn't matter at all, unless he were to have made some like catastrophic mistake where, you know, it just doesn't matter that people have opinions about Tom Brady's performance. And I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, the average guy who's watching that Sunday afternoon game, or the average woman who's watching, right, because she's a football fan or because her boyfriend's watching, like, they don't care about what people think online. Overall, I think we think it's neat that Tom Brady is still in our lives. And I think that everyone, to a man or to a woman, wants to see him get better. And I think he will get better. I want to take, if you love the Rogue Media Network like I love the Rogue Media Network, you know that Cam Stewart talked about this on his show as well. And lucky for us, he left some clips as examples of Tom Brady's work. So I want you to take a listen. This is just a couple examples of yesterday. Go ahead, Zach.
I think he's going to be dealing with this type of pressure. Talked about this with some of these young offensive linemen. Tomlinson just gets by Martin. Nothing the quarterback can do when you're standing there and they get to the middle of the pocket. What a catch and what a throw. That's tight coverage on Ward. We love talking about that matchup all week. What's it going to be like with CeeDee Lamb and Denzel Ward? And
okay, so I got this from an article this morning. Richard Deitch was breaking down Tom Brady's performance, and he cited, and this guy is Tom Brady's producer. This guy, he's like a legend in the TV circles. Lead producer for the NFL on Fox, Richie Zions. He tells his broadcasters, and I've heard this before too, analysts receive this a lot of times as far as, you know, advice or an overall, let's put a bow on it. How should you approach this? Slow down, be concise, and project the game going forward. Tom Brady was kind of fast in those clips. He certainly wasn't precise, and he didn't like throw it forward, right? Okay, fine. But like, he will. There's no doubt in my mind. And I think that overall, we all want to see Tom Brady do an awesome job. The only person that I can remember in recent history who has really had his balls broken so wide open on national TV that he was kind of run off, and I don't know if social media had anything to do with it or just a level of uncomfort, was Jason Witten. And that was kind of just a bummer. That was back when I was working in TV news. So back like not that long ago, I stopped working in TV news. But with Jason Witten, that was probably 2017, 2018. And it just was like, it just wasn't happening. And the feedback and the criticism was like really harsh on him. And, you know, now he's winning championships at the high school level, and he's probably going to be a really awesome college coach. So, you know, that's what he says he wants to do. So maybe, you know, as fate would have it, that all happened for a reason. But the Tom Brady, $375 million, I understand why people are going to, you know, handicap his performance, but it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. The bottom line is, baseline, we like having Tom Brady in our lives. We like the fact that he's getting paid that much. And it's all good. I mean, I don't know if to say we like the fact that he's getting paid that much, but he's getting paid that much for a reason. The last thing I'll say about Tom Brady is that next week, the Saints and the Cowboys, Tom Brady will be on that game, which is pretty cool for him because he gets to say he now knows the Cowboys. And one thing that was glaring for Brady too, I was listening to Cam and Paul Catalina. They really were taking shots at Chris Collinsworth. I like Collinsworth, And I think that last night, Collinsworth actually made Brady look worse because he was so good and he's so loose. So I think, like, if you watch Tom Brady at 325 and then you see Collinsworth come on the air, I was like, really? It's funny. I'm reminded of how good these guys really can be. So that's one thing I was thinking about yesterday. Another thing that we all started our day with, this is like, so that's how I talked about, like, the herd online, and that's how social media can suck. All right, here's how social media is awesome. Okay. I get a text message from a buddy of mine yesterday morning, right as all this was going down. I forget the exact time, but it's the video of Tyreek Hill getting arrested on the way to a home game. You don't get that in any other world than the exact world we're living in right now. There's a video of Tyreek, and it's unfortunate, right? It sucks. He's face down. But the access of the immediacy of that, the vehicle and the medium of online and social media gave us the access to that. And it made for an amazing story all day long. The fact is, Tyreek starts his day off probably one of the worst starts you can get, regardless of who's responsible or how it happened. You're face down on a concrete pavement, headed to work. That's a shitty start to the day for anybody. Then at halftime, I was just kind of checking out the score, and I said, wow, they haven't scored yet. Like, this is awful for Tyreek Hill. And everybody, we live in a fantasy football world, so people were bummed out about that. And then at the end of the day, you see that he literally becomes just explosive, 80-yard touchdown. The Dolphins win on a game-winning field goal. And here's Melanie Collins from CBS talking to Tyreek Hill right after the game yesterday. This is an amazing interview, and we talked about it last week on the show on Friday. At the end of that game, when Likely's foot came down out of bounds in the Ravens-Chiefs game, Isaiah Likely, it was by a toe, right? I was like, this is so dramatic. You literally would have to send this back to a screenwriter and say, hey, make it a little more believable. This is unbelievable too. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, a day filled with adversity. How would you just describe your mindset coming into this game today?
You know what, man? So when I left home, I told my wife, I was like, babe, I'm finna go to work, and I'm finna get prepared for my day. Little did I know, that was quite a surprise on the way, man. But you know what? At the end of the day, dog, I got a job to do, and my job is to come inside of this stadium and be great, dog. So,
what did it mean to you for your teammates to join you this morning and show support?
Bro, I love that. I was fired up, dog, to see Jonnu, to see Calais, right there in the heat of the battle with me, man. That goes to show that, man, it's more than about football, dog. Like, the brotherhood that we got outside of just football is amazing, dog, because those dudes were, like, really risking their lives for me. You feel me? So, shout out to Jonnu, shout out Calais, shout out to Drew Brooks, shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to my mom, too. My mom got out the call and go South Georgia, you feel me? Shout out to Mon Dukes, too, you feel me?
Tyreek, what happened this morning?
You know what? I'm not going to comment on any of that, man. Like, whenever stuff come out, we the best in the nation. We the best in the nation, man. But look, like I said, I'm not going to comment on that. We just going to let bygones be bygones. Move on and learn from it. That's it.
Appreciate the time, Tyreek. Congrats on the win.
Free my dog. Hey, free.
Okay, so more than likely, Tyreek Hill is different than you. And if you're feeling uncomfortable right now because he's so different than you, that's okay. But you just got to accept who he is. That was pure joy. We're sitting here in Baylor country where there's a culture of joy for Scott Drew at Baylor and around the program. That was joy. That was a huge win. That was a day for him where, and we'll find out exactly what happened at some point, but he showed amazing resilience. And again, we're sitting here talking about you couldn't have written a better script. That is insanity. The guy was face down at 10:30 in the morning, and now at 3 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon, he's, hands in the sky on a mountaintop. He's a champion in, so many words. But I think that's amazing. And then the fact that he, especially on the field, he stayed away from it. He even said afterwards in his press conference, he said, look, I want to be a police officer. I understand how important these guys are to society. Now, his side of the story, which is all we have right now, is that if he wasn't Tyreek Hill, what would have happened to him, right? And again, we're going to learn more about this. So I can just say that capturing all that, the fact that he wasn't charged with anything just makes it a little lighter, I feel like, and sort of his ability to move through that situation and navigate it so fluidly, I thought was really impressive. And I thought the way he handled that, by the way, Melanie Collins, that was outstanding, that interview. Outstanding. The fact that she asked him the question, what happened this morning? Or she asked him like, hey, you've had a day filled with adversity. And then at the end, she flat out asked him what happened. I was like, wow, that's like good journalism for a post-game interview. So that had all the makings of insane television. And again, it's why sports are just the best theater there is, the best reality TV. Part of the reality TV also, something that happened in the morning that carried over to the afternoon. Drew Bledsoe. There was a piece about Drew Bledsoe on one of the pregame shows. And I'm going to play it, but I just want to set it up for you. Bledsoe was talking about how he became Tom Brady's backup, how after Tom won the job from him. And then he talked about how the same thing happened in the latter stages of his career in Dallas with Tony Romo. But here's how he compared the two quarterbacks that ultimately took his job.
Dallas, Parcells made the decision to yank me at halftime of a game and throw Romo in there. Really didn't agree with that one. If you're watching this, Romo, you know this was true. The minute that he became the starter, he became pretty big in his own mind. And he was no longer the curious, inquisitive guy. Where that was the difference between him and Tommy. Tommy became the starter. He still was asking all the questions where all of a sudden Romo was the guy that had all the answers.
All right, so a lot of people were kind of getting after Bledsoe's ass, calling him bitter or saying he was like, had resentment. Look, Drew Bledsoe is doing for us that's everything we want an interviewed former player to do, to tell the truth. And you could tell that that's something he had shared with Tony Romo before. That's what we want from people. So I would ask you, don't ridicule our guys for being honest like that and having an opinion and being forthright. Drew Bledsoe probably doesn't care what anybody's reaction is, but come on, that is awesome. So thank you for that, Drew Bledsoe. And whether it's true or not, who knows? It's his opinion, and he was there, and that's pretty cool. All right, I had the opportunity to call a game this weekend. UNT, Stephen F. Austin. The game was in Denton, Texas. I called it with this a guy named Doc Holliday. He played at Memphis, and he was awesome. He played in the NFL with the Rams for a little bit. But Doc Holliday was a great guy to work with because he was so light, and we had so much fun. The game really felt like it was a joyful experience. But one of the things that was not enjoyable as a broadcaster, as a fan, as anybody, there were technical glitches as it related to a referee's microphone. It kept going in and out, to the point where I was getting a little frustrated because as a play-by-play guy, I would stop talking and wait for the referee to tell us what had happened. What had happened was wait for the referee to explain exactly what the situation was, and then you couldn't hear him. So it was kind of frustrating, but at the same time, I was working with the guy. We were having fun, and I was like, let me take a chance. This reminds me so much of a scene in Spies Like Us with Chevy Chase. When in the movie, Chevy Chase is like this diplomat, basically like a rich guy born on third base, thought he hit a triple. He ends up being a diplomat. He doesn't do any of the work, and he ends up kind of like a clown because he's always trying to bullshit his way through stuff. But I want you to hear, I talked about this during the game, and then we put together a clip of Chevy Chase with Spies Like Us. So take a listen.
Earn Their Money Tonight gets together.
I was on play one by each. After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct, offense, number 18. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, defense, number 17.
Well, if you've seen Spies Like Us, you know exactly what I'm thinking right there.
The International Wheat Board has reported, and I quote, extensive contamination in the grain fields of southern Argentina.
The state this microphone's cutting out on us. I'm awfully sorry. However, unstate, so I must go.
All right, coming up, we got Matt Mosley. We're going to talk a little bit about the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's new contract. Matt Mosley, Doomsday Podcast, of course, has covered the Cowboys for decades. You can listen to the Doomsday Podcast right here on the Rogue Media Network. What's the other podcast, Zach?
Obstructed View.
Obstructed View with Matt Mosley. I'm so happy to have Matt Mosley as a part of my life. We get to talk to him a little bit here about the Cowboys and about everything that's going on in Big D. Stay with us.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Here at the Rogue Media Network, we are so happy to have a man of this ilk with us talking Cowboys on the Doomsday Podcast. Last night, it was recorded right after the game with Ed Werder. Of course, we're talking about our own Matt Mosley. He has the Obstructed View podcast, and you can hear him this afternoon on ESPN 1660 with our own Cam Stewart breaking it all down. Matt, what's up?
Pete, man, just gorgeous weather, huge Cowboys victory. Other than the Baylor result, I would say it's been a good weekend, and the Doomsday Podcast seemed to. Everybody's very excited. Everybody's been signed to long-term contracts, including you at Rogue Media Network. I'm still looking for mine, see what we can work out. But it's a good time. It's a good time to be a sports fan.
It really is. And to what you're saying, the weather's beautiful. It kind of feels like fall today. And Dak Prescott's got to feel pretty good this morning, inking that record-breaking contract yesterday morning, or at least the announcement was made yesterday morning. Is that you've had a lot of experience with Jerry Jones? Is there some theater to that? The fact that the morning of the opening game of the season, that news breaks?
Oh, yeah. Jerry loves it. And, sometimes you do need a deadline, a true deadline, to get a deal done. And I mean, again, this wasn't a true deadline, and they could have let it play into the season, but we kind of knew something was up because Dak had a different demeanor at his media availability this past week, and he seemed to, be all smiles and have a good feel about things. And I even had somebody reach out to me, Pete, and they were just like, do you think Dak told him that he wasn't going to play unless the deal was done? And that, if that's true, that would go against everything I've ever known about Dak. So I certainly don't think anything like that happened. I think it was just, sort of, from what I can understand, Dak just finally, it got, the offer was high enough that it was like, he told his agent, let's do this. he's going to make $60 million a year, and all that comes with that. Which again, when you make that kind of money and you've had the limited playoff success that he and the Cowboys have had, you have an even bigger target on your back. But for one day, everybody was excited. I think it was good for the locker room, and now it does make me think about like all those things we hear Jerry say and how ridiculous some of it is. Almost kind of like yesterday, he's quoted saying, well, yeah, we're going to be able to get all this done, and we can still bring in players around them, even with this enormous contract. When for months he said the exact opposite. Basically, if we spend all this money on one or two players, we're not going to be able to get things done. So, again, owners say a lot of things, and a lot of things are said during contracts, but they got it done, and hopefully he goes on to have a tremendous season. But again, like anything, with this team, the ride may be fun. They may end up winning a lot of regular season games, but nothing seems to matter, of course, until they finally have some playoff success.
What was the most promising thing you saw yesterday that could contribute to playoff success down the line?
Probably just that I thought it was a great debut for Mike Zimmer. I think the players are really buying into what Zim is wanting to do. And I think when you go out and have that much success and just completely beat up a quarterback, who at one point was one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't know if he's still that guy, but they sacked him 6 times. You had the 2 picks. It was a dominant performance. And so, what that allows you to do is you can play a certain style of football. If you think you may be able to go out and beat some people up. They couldn't run. They really couldn't pass the ball. So I would say that's the most promising thing, that while Quinn's defenses were really good and had a lot of takeaways, this is the new Zim era. And what I heard, I think Cowboys fans should feel really good about what you heard from players after that game, because what that game did is make them believe in Zimmer and make them think, okay, his calls, the way he handles things, what he puts them in, all those multiple fronts where they came at people from different angles. There were a lot of really good things that they did. So I would say, Pete, that's the biggest takeaway, is that you may have, you have the makings of a dominant defense. And by the way, some of those guys that we didn't really know that much about, like Overshone, we thought he might be good, but to see him out there making big plays, that really speaks highly of what the Cowboys are going to try to get done. Lawrence played great. So it was a really good day for the defense.
Last one for you. Tom Brady made his debut yesterday. He's actually going to call the Cowboys game again this coming weekend against New Orleans. What did you take away from his performance?
I did not think he would be an overnight success like Romo was. And now, of course, Romo gets a lot of criticism. I thought it would take time. Because Tom's always been, he's kind of funny, and he's had a lot more personality since he got away from Belichick, right? Since he got out of New England. He can be kind of funny, but it needs to be almost like canned and prepared funny. Like, I don't know if he's a natural. So, like, I made this point last night with Ed. Like, Peyton Manning understands what he's good at doing, other than being, a great former quarterback. But Peyton is truly a funny guy. I think Tom found out how hard that job is yesterday. Like, and of course, he's going to have all the opportunities in the world to keep doing this, huge money, but he was a little nervous out of the chute. And he was saying, excuse me. He was, and again, you're a real generous play-by-play guy, Pete. you really try to set up and make your analysts look good. I think Burkhart's like that. I think Kevin is a good match for Tom, and eventually it'll be okay. But it just was never going to be – I never thought it was going to be great from the start, and it wasn't. You know, unfortunately for Tom, they've made such a big thing of this that he's like, first 2 games are going to be enormous ratings because it's the Cowboys. And so Fox – I think Fox may have gone about this the wrong way. I think Fox should have been looking to not have him on the Cowboys right off the top, because it's like more eyes, more criticism. He's going to get killed on Twitter. Like, I knew Jason Witten was going to struggle. But then on top of that, ESPN put him in horrible situation with Booger, and Joe Tessitore he's fine, but Joe's kind of about Joe. He's not wired like you, Pete, to kind of know, like, hey, I'm supposed to do the game and yes, be energetic, but the whole show's not about me. Well, Joe doesn't. So that was a mess of a broadcast booth. This'll be better. I think things will settle down, but this is a shaky beginning in my mind. Now, again, you're a lot. I think you're less cynical and less critical than I am. I am curious what you thought of it.
I thought the same thing, really. I think that he needs to get more comfortable so he can be looser and find that sense of humor that we talked about, right? And just have fun. You want to be having fun. He didn't sound like a guy who was having a ton of fun.
No.
And if you're not having a ton of fun, then it's really important you sound like you're totally in control. And I think he was somewhere he didn't have either of those covered, but I think he will. There's no question. I think he will.
Yeah. It has to get better. But again, I never thought he was just completely wired. I never know if these guys totally understand, like, how much you have to work to be good at this. Like, I don't always think, I mean, again, he's paid huge money and I'm sure he's put the work in. But until you get thrown out there, sink or swim moment, it's hard to be ready for that. Like, even Aikman had NFL Europe and had some ramp-up time. And I'm sure Tom's worked at this, but, yeah, he was not a natural. And again, I think Romo's killed everybody on this, because Romo was kind of right away, what he did was new to people and predicting plays and all that. And it was like, it worked, and he was good right away. And that's tough. That's tough when somebody's that good right away. Everybody else that comes along, it's tough. But anyway, there's a college basketball analyst that I'm thinking of, Pete, and we just need to get Tom with him and let him speak. He's a man who started Army at one point. I think if Tom spends a little time with him, he'll figure this thing out.
Mosley, you're the best. You really are.
Okay.
Hey, man, I appreciate your time. Everybody needs to remember that the Matt Mosley Show on 1660 today, Obstructed View and Doomsday Podcast. You can find them on the Rogue Media Network. Matt, I appreciate it. You're the best.
All right. Have a great one. Thank you, Pete.
All right, Matt. That was Matt Mosley. We're going to take a break, come back, talk Monday Night Football just for a little bit, and then we'll bring in our main man, Cam Stewart. We'll be right back.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete. Sports.
In the lovely Rogue Media Studios here in the Alico building. It was great to talk with Matt Mosley. And I want to talk a little bit now about Monday Night Football before we bring in Cam Stewart. 49ers tonight playing against the New York Jets. Now, this game is in San Francisco. 3.5-point favorites are the 49ers, and they welcome in Aaron Rodgers at 40 years of age and the New York Jets. This, again, we talk about theater, is going to be so fun to watch. How Aaron Rodgers does this year. I have a real sneaking suspicion that Joe Douglas, the general manager of the Jets, has put the pieces around Aaron Rodgers to make him a great success. I think it's all there for Aaron Rodgers. And if he stays healthy, which at 40 years of age is a huge part of the equation, you can't stress that enough. But if he can stay healthy, I believe the Jets are going to go to the AFC Championship. So that's one thing that I want to put out there that I truly believe is more than a possibility, is that if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, which again is a question, the Jets are going to play in the AFC Championship this season. And I think it's going to be a thrilling ride for all of us. 40 years of age, though, that is something really to consider when you talk about him staying healthy. The fact that he didn't last but a quarter last year speaks to his vulnerability at this age. The injuries that players that are 40 and over that aren't named Tom Brady will sustain are really a lot of times wear and tear injuries and injuries that have to do with their age. When we saw what happened to Aaron Rodgers last year, that was kind of an old guy injury. That could happen again. But if it doesn't, they're going to the AFC Championship. Rogue Media Network, the Pete Sousa Show. We'll be right back with Cam Stewart.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
In the Alico building, correct, Zach Burke?
Zach Burke
rocking his Houston Oilers jersey this morning.
Did you ask Zach if we were in the building that we're in?
I meant, we're back on the air.
Because
we're in here. High probability is we lose internet, and then Baba Booey comes racing through those doors, yelling at us. Now, Mike, by the way, Zach, I know you're the ultimate apologist for Mike, and I have a love affair with Mike.
What's he about to say about Mike?
But no, we literally took it was like when your other brothers and sisters do shit and you get yelled at for it. Mike came storming through here this morning, was yelling at us not to move shit, and then And I was like, well, who's moving stuff?
Well, I can handle it. I'm an adult.
Yeah. He was rightfully angry. So.
So I knew Zach was going to say that, which is good. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But yeah,
youngest is 6. I can take it.
The internet went down. Mike was yelling at his boss, the guy Corey Dickman that owns this place, which you gotta love. I love guys like that who will basically yell at the boss, right?
Sometimes boss needs to get yelled at. I don't know if this was the time, but sometimes.
Well, and the boss is so cool. He's got no ego. He totally is like whatever. He's like okay, but we're live from the Alico building, and
correct, Zach. We are okay.
I have not picked up one thing here and moved it, and I do a little bit of that. Maybe he was talking to me. I don't know, but I haven't moved anything
unknowingly. You've moved me, Pete.
I'll tell you what I was disappointed in this weekend. See, I like to give you a hard time because you talk about how bad the Patriots are going to suck.
Yeah.
And then they win a game and you come on here like they won the Super Bowl, which I respect. as a fan, I understand and respect.
Sure.
Okay. Baylor did the same thing to me. Now they did bounce back and start to throw some real punches in the later rounds of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But it would seem like, I mean, when that game started, Baylor, Utah on the road in Salt Lake City, I thought they were going to lose like 60-0. That was the feeling.
At the end of the first quarter, I thought it was going to be 80-0. Yeah.
It was scary, dude. Like they were overwhelmed. And it was not a good showing from DeQuan Finn.
I had you on my show on Locked On Baylor telling me this guy was appointment viewing, and I ran with the Pete Sousa run. And
hold on now.
Your predictions in terms of the games I were watching were 0-2 this weekend. DeQuan Finn and the Bengals beating the Patriots.
Okay. Now, DeQuan Finn.
Yes.
I'm still in there with him. And I'm still in there with Jake Spavital. I think
let me say, I'm not out completely on DeQuan Finn.
Yeah.
But I do think that performance is worthy of criticism.
Of course. Now, take me through your thoughts about DeQuan Finn and the way he played on Saturday. What did he show you?
Honestly, he didn't show me anything good, right? I mean, what the takeaway was, oh man, this is not what we signed up for. That doesn't mean he's terrible, but he didn't show me anything good on Saturday. He was not an accurate thrower. I think what's more damning than the stats, by the way, 9 of 21 for only 115 passing yards. And almost half of that was Yak on one Josh Cameron play. But I think what was more damning was the play calling in the second half. I don't think they felt like they had 10-yard pass plays. That's what it screamed to me when they were just running it between the tackles in the third quarter, which worked for the most part. They got down in the red zone and they had a 3rd and 10, and I don't think they had a play for it. So they ran it and hoped to get something. In fact, there was a couple like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7s, which they did like whatever play action quarterback draw almost. Put them in a 5-step drop and then take the room up the middle while they spread the field out, which I think is a good play. I think that Spavital offense that should be a good play, but it felt like in this game that's the only shot they had at 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. So it was on the road in a place where not a lot of teams win that aren't named Utah. The Utah defense was at worst like the 2nd or 3rd best defense in the Pac-12 last year.
Yeah.
They're a terrific defense. Don't get me wrong. But when we talk about bringing in a guy who's going to be an X factor and a guy who is almost winning you games by himself in the Big 12, so far we're 0-1 on that. And it's not a kind box score to DeQuan Finn. 9 of 21 for 115.
Yeah.
And the Bears total only put up 223 yards. That's not nearly good enough. So it's the whole offense for sure, but he did not. I don't think Finn showed you anything on Saturday that would have you think this is our guy to get us for sure to bowl eligibility. There's a path there still. I think we'll learn more about this team by the end of this month. They got Air Force, who looks a bad Air Force team, by the way. Looks terrible at home. And then at Colorado, we've seen what Colorado looks like so far this year. If you tell me that game's not winnable, I think you're way too negative. And then BYU at home. BYU just pulled off a nice win against SMU, but no one's picking BYU to be a top-tier team in this conference this year. So I think after that, Pete, I'll know more about where they need to go forward. I talked on Locked On Baylor. It's not unfair to have the quarterback discussion right now.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
It's not unfair.
Yeah.
I think it might be a bit of a jump, and I don't think the coaching staff is going to lean towards a replacement, but I don't think it's unfair.
Yeah, like if he comes out and has a porous first half, it would not blow me away if you see Sawyer Robertson in the second half of that game. Because then all this, you start thinking, okay, it's a totally different type of quarterback. He knows the system. It's what he played in pretty much all his life, and then was thrust into this junkyard dog type offense last year, that wide zone that just, we had no offensive line. It just wasn't happening. Now, as a fan, and now I start to remind myself of you because here I am flip-flopping.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, wait a minute. It's all of a sudden, it's the same thing. It's like you're living with this person you're dating. They have a couple bad days, and then the backup quarterback now, all the
always
other
the most popular player.
All the other women start to look way better.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, hold on.
An old
let's
Almost
face
Flame has an awesome Instagram post.
Yeah. It's like, that's dumb. That's never it's never the answer, right? I mean, I'm in a relationship now where I'm in love. I don't have that problem, but I've been in relationships before where that's been an issue.
Sure.
Where you get a bad day with somebody and you start like, well, wait a minute. Let me see.
And I think to even back up this point that you're going for, sometimes it's a bad day with someone and you're like, I know there's going to be others. You know what I mean? Like, I know there's going to be others. And we do kind of know that with DeQuan Finn in the terms of there's good with the bad, right? Like he's going to keep you on the field sometimes and when you probably shouldn't. And there's some times where he's going to be bringing your defense out there when they probably shouldn't have. That's what I thought after game one with a couple of picks. I wouldn't say I was like, oh, it's all right. It was totally, he's going to be great. But I was like, okay, that's what happens with a guy like this, the quarterback like this. We know it can be feast or famine. It was big time famine on Saturday.
Yeah.
And it does. You have to, I think, take into account that this is a kid playing Power 4 football for the first time. And you could take that as this is his first time going against a defense like this, throw it out of the way and he'll get better next time. Or, well, he started a lot of games in his career. He's played against Power 4 competition, not a ton, but he has done it. And you look at this box score and you're thinking, how does this get better? What game is it going to get better? Is this too far a step for him? I think those things are not unfair, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not out on DeQuan Finn entirely. I'm, in fact, kind of far from it. But I do think there was a point in that game on Saturday where I thought, Sawyer Robertson going to give you worse than this right now? It's one of those things. We see it in hockey too, and you've seen a bunch with quarterbacks. Like, maybe this team just needs a spark. Maybe you just need to bring this guy in, and he can put the hand at 10-2, and he's calm, and he gets the guys on his side. We see it with like pulling goalies in hockey. That's the kind of the feeling that I had. And of course, I've got a bunch of people in my comments who are like, seriously, Sawyer Robertson is so good. Like, he needs to be out there. And I'm like, I kind of get it, but also there is a reason DeQuan Finn won this quarterback job. So that's why I'm thinking it's going to take, it takes a couple of games of that in order for a coaching staff to make a change, in my opinion.
Well, I think their decision becomes easier, leaning towards the change. If you mentioned this is a bad Air Force team.
Yes.
If you don't see anything in the first half that makes you say, okay, I'm excited, or, hey, we can win with this guy against a Division I opponent, right? Because that hasn't happened yet this year.
Yep. A bowl team.
Yeah. So
program.
that is the barometer is coming next weekend, because I think everybody, when you looked at Baylor's schedule, I mean, I even said with my toxic positivity that they would be 3-1. And
you still have a shot at that.
I still do have a shot.
That's the thing. Is like, that is the toughest game on Baylor.
And they didn't lose. This is another thing I wanted to talk to you about. How did they stay in it? Because I can tell you right now, I don't know. I had a game. I had to leave. I had to go over to the game I was doing, so I couldn't watch like literally the last 3 quarters of the game.
Yeah.
How did they keep it close, and was that fool's gold?
Well, if you want the fool's gold example of it, a lot of people would say because Cam Rising got pushed into the water cooler, and that's why it was close, and he didn't come back in the game. But I think this Baylor defense is for real, which you warned me about last week.
I believe
and
that.
I said, hey, we got to see it. We got to see it. And let's start with an FBS opponent, and then we'll see. And that was kind of my main thing going into this game on Saturday. We kind of know what they have personnel wise offensively. We kind of know what to expect from them. I thought defense. Usually, you're saying defense travels. I was like, let's see if defense travels here, and it absolutely did. I thought they played tremendous. It was Zach Wilson's brother who was the quarterback that came in, and they kept the training wheels on for the most part, but they really kept them in that game, and they were cooking when Cam was out there in the second quarter as well. Like, they gave up 1 touchdown drive the whole game. Utah scored on 1 drive that started outside their opponent's 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So they gave up 1 drive. Then you fumble inside the 5, and then a kickoff or a blocked kick return for a touchdown. So I was really impressed with the Baylor defense again, even against.
I feel like defensive. I feel like a Kyle Whittingham, even going into that game and certainly during it. Like, now Baylor is, whether this team is any good or not, you're still like, son of a bitch. Now I got to deal with Aranda, like, hands on. Like, can't this guy just be the coach and let them suck? Like, he will make life hard on other offensive minds or on offensive minds in this game or other head coaches. I feel like they're like,
he owned Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
People forget that, man. 2020, Baylor had, well, let's go back 2019. He crushes them in the playoff. I think they get some garbage touchdowns to get to 28 points.
This is at LSU, right?
Yeah, when he was at LSU, and obviously Lincoln was the head coach at OU. They crushed him, absolutely crushed him with an NFL Pro Bowl, almost MVP quarterback playing for OU. Crushed him. And then the next year, Baylor does not have a good football team, specifically offensively. Like, they're actually pretty good defensively. And they were in the game for 3 quarters at OU because of their defense. They had a pick 6 against Spencer Rattler. They didn't win that game because their offense was putrid, but like, they kept them in that game. And then in 2021, Caleb Williams came in here at McLean Stadium in Waco and had the worst game of his career. Like, Dave Aranda put him in a blender in that game. And they end up pulling Caleb Williams, who won the Heisman the next year. They pull him, put Spencer Rattler in, and Spencer Rattler was even worse. They put Caleb Williams back in. Like, they had no answers for Dave Aranda's defense. Lincoln Riley still has nightmares about Dave Aranda. And, like, that's, again, I've said this on Locked On. I think Baylor fans are forgetting that. And it goes exactly to your point of, like, you got to believe these head coaches in the Big 12, these offensive guys too, Mike Gundy or whomever, are like, shit.
Yeah, what a pain in the ass now.
Damn it. Like, we were really hoping he could just keep his hands on too many things and have his hands on nothing kind of thing.
Because it's so, what he's doing, by the way, and Kyle Whittingham talked about that, is so rare. To have
very rare defensive side.
Yeah. It doesn't happen. I think he's the only one in the country.
To the point where they were kind of laughing at it. You didn't see this part of the game, but it was a 3rd down. It was a big 3rd down in the second half for Baylor's offense. And they cut to the sideline, and Dave Aranda is drawing up things for his defense. He's got his back to the play. And personally, I don't really care.
No, I don't care.
And I'm a diehard for this team, and I was expecting him to be fired last year, but I've seen some comments about that. I don't care.
No, I don't care at all.
That's why you bring in a very seasoned offensive coordinator. That's okay to me, but it's very taboo across college football. You never see it anymore.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to Dave Aranda not having much of an ego and really being in the right place in his life, and just mentally about, like, he's very comfortable in his own skin. I think, like, when it comes to things that he knows very well, things like
maybe football. That's why I'm so bitter.
Why are you bitter?
I'm not comfortable in my own skin.
You need to get to the point, and Zach does this every day. You want to wear life like a loose shirt, and Zach wears a loose shirt every day.
I wear a lot of loose shirts. I have to. I'm getting a gut.
But you wear life like a loose shirt. That's what
like
we
a 3-1 count.
That's what we want. Exactly, dude. Like being ahead in baseball. Okay. I wanted to talk to you about one more thing. I talked to Mosley about it. It's
another sports thing, Pete. Fine.
no, it's not so much. What your thoughts about Tom Brady?
In general, or his broadcasting career?
His broadcasting career.
Yeah, it left a lot to be desired yesterday.
Yeah. Did you watch the whole game?
Yeah.
Pre or post Gummy?
This was pre. I was working on that, Pete. I was working. I got to talk about that on the Mosley show. Yeah, pre. I don't usually take them till like 7 p.m. I don't really love taking them in the day.
What did you do after you took the gummies?
I just watched TV.
All right. So what did you watch?
I watched a little bit of the football game last night, that Lions game. I FaceTimed Grace. I do that a lot when I'm high. I got dinner. I usually watch something really nerdy when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like Saturday night, I watched half of the 2003 Patriots video yearbook.
Dude, that's awesome.
In preparation for game day.
I love it.
But I'm trying to think. With football season, I can watch a lot of live football. But I watched something nerdy last night. I can't remember what. Oh, you know what it was? You know what it was, Pete? You're going to love this. This is your team. Okay? I couldn't help myself. It was some random YouTuber. The production quality isn't even like outstanding. Put out this hour and 40-minute video. The NFL team that sold their soul, the miserable history of the New York Jets. And I was like, I didn't only watch like 15 minutes of it, but I was like, I've got to get into this.
What do you guys think about that, by the way? Like,
I thought Brady was okay, like for being a first time, pretty bad overall. I don't expect him to be an elite broadcaster, but I think he'll be okay.
I think he'll be really good. Zach, what do you think about those? Like when YouTubers that put together documentaries, first of all, they get me all the time because I'm like, oh, this is a real documentary. And then it's like, in 1974, Joe Gilliam was a wayward quarterback for the Steelers.
And like you can hear
and they're
the
ripping
buzz,
off
like in the background, like you can hear the hum.
I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
I appreciate it because I know that obviously it takes a lot of work to do that, and they're putting in the work.
Yeah,
it's just some of the quality. Sometimes you're like, but I have watched a decently put together YouTube.
I've watched some good ones, man.
Yeah. I watched one.
Some good. This Jets one's fine, by the way. Fine.
It's probably bullshit, but.
Are you going to argue that the Jets do not have a miserable history?
I watched one about Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham last night, and the guy whoever put it together is a genius because it starts off with an interview with Lindsey Buckingham, and I forget the guy's name right now.
Stevie Nicks.
No, with CBS News. He does all. I forget. So it's legit. It's a legit clip, and it's. You're like, oh, wow, this is like a documentary. And then you click, and it's like, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had a star. Lindsey Buckingham was born in. And Lindsey Buckingham.
Starts from the beginning.
Yo, he does.
When it starts from the beginning.
Those two, you want to talk about. Lindsey Buckingham is like, yeah, I think Stevie's upset because I actually met the true love of my life, and we ended up having 2 kids. And that was nothing, and that has never happened for us.
That's the way love goes.
That's so rad.
But it's like, damn.
That's so rad to bring that up like 40, 50 years later.
It's like, yo,
that's
dude,
so
like
sick.
seriously, nobody can be the bigger person in that relationship. It's like, and then she so gets asked, Stevie, what do you think about Lindsey? And Stevie still, I mean, she still wants to have sex with him. She's basically like, we'll never talk again. We were that kind of lovers. We were those kind of lovers. Then she kicks Mick Fleetwood in the nuts because she dated Mick Fleetwood.
Yeah.
So he gets like the nice guy label because then she's asked, well, what do you think about Mick Fleetwood? Like, he was your lover. Like, could you be friends with him? And she's like, yeah, we'll hang out for the rest of our lives. I'm like, I would much rather be Lindsey Buckingham in that equation.
Is there no one in your life though that you don't feel that way about? Like that you're like, if we talked, this would get too. I can't do that.
Yeah,
I almost want to talk to them, but I can't. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have women on both sides. Both sides of the fence. Yeah, ones who I just will never talk to, and ones who could reach out to me, and I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, and you can't explain that to your girlfriend. Like, oh yeah, I talked to them. Like,
it just brings up too much of an awkward.
Yeah, it just So that's it for today.
I hope she's not listening.
Who, Grace?
Yeah.
Why?
because it's tough to describe. Like, I don't want to talk to any of these people, but like you said, like if one of them reached out or something, I'd be like, oh, hey, how's it going?
It doesn't matter.
You know,
yeah, but it's, you don't want to explain.
Yeah, she's a therapist. She'd understand.
You can't explain that away.
Yeah, it's just not worth trying to, kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. Great show today, guys.
Hey, I got one thing for you, Pete.
Oh man.
So I was in the other room listening to the character assassination of me. And I just wanted to be
yell
known
was a strong word.
that I did not yell at Corey. I was not yelling at Corey. I was yelling at the room. And I don't think I yelled.
He was in it.
Well, get internet.
I mean,
internet's got to be better.
The internet does have to be better.
Yeah.
And you guys do an amazing job.
Just tired of people moving stuff, Pete.
I don't move things.
Stop moving things, Pete.
All right, guys, that'll do it for today. We're going to move on out of here, right? All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Cam Stewart starts off the Sports Block tomorrow at 11 a.m., the Rogue Media Network.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
We are Rogue Media Sports.